first time in many years. How will your party ensure the best education for post-16 students? And I guess the question, to be fair, to go to all three of you, is how would your policies help sixth formers, further education students in this town now that they're losing their sixth form? And I'll start by going to Charles Lawley, if I may, please.
Well, I mean, with regards to the sixth form, it was local Lib Dem councillors like Beth Atkins and David Lomax who fought to keep the sixth form open. So it's with great regret. And it was the Labour-run Derbyshire County Council which shut it. So it's with great regret this happened. The Lib Dems would reduce all cuts to frontline schools and colleges, protecting per pupil funding in real terms. We provide £7 billion more for frontline schools and colleges. 35.7 million would go to our local schools and colleges. The Lib Dems were the only party who fought to keep New Mill's sixth form open, and only the Lib Dems have a fully costed plan to open it again.
Ruth George, would you like to respond to this question?
Thank you very much. I think that parents who were involved in that campaign, who looked at the figures of the amount of money that was coming into the sixth form and the amount of pupils that were enlisted, had to see that there was a very unfortunate argument there for cutting the sixth form. But that's because that school sixth forms have seen their funding cut by 18% in the last 6 years. It didn't remain financially viable to do. We've seen our exam system for our teenagers absolutely turned on its head, which has made it much more difficult for young people to think about going on to sixth form and to doing A-levels. And so we saw falling numbers at the sixth form, which made it very hard to remain viable. That's why the Labour Party have, unfortunately, well, everyone has seen large numbers of sixth forms had to close over the last 3 years across the country, and why we will give the further education sector the funding it needs in order to bring it up to the Key Stage 4 baselines and ensure that that is distributed fairly between both sixth forms and colleges. And we will support more people to go into further education to tackle those falling roles, not just 16 to 18-year-olds, but any adult who lacks those level 3 skills will be able to go into and do those courses to keep the numbers up and make it cost effective and to help plug our skills gap that we've got in the UK. And we will also restore the education maintenance allowance.
Yay!
That was taken from the coalition, by the coalition government, from the poorest students. But we can only make sixth form funding more viable if all schools are properly funded, and that's why I've been campaigning since I was selected as a candidate against the enormous cuts to school funding, because we need decent schools for all our children right from the start.
Yay!
I'm going to have to include clapping time in the candidate's speaking time. You might want to bear that in mind. Okay, Andrew Bingham, the manifesto says we'll
But he won't
invest
get
in
clapped,
further
will he?
education colleges. Is that instead of sixth forms or in addition to?
No, I think if you look at the latest statistics, that amongst 16-year-olds now, 2/3 actually choose to go elsewhere other than school sixth forms. So there is a dwindling number going to sixth forms. Now, on the issue of New Mills, I was very sad to see it closed. I went to Chapel School and it was the Labour Council that closed it. Anyway, by the by, what I'm saying is...
It's the government!
We're central government.
If you could please allow him to answer the question.
Thank you. I was very sad to see New Mill's sixth form go. I met with a group of parents at Chaps House on Mellor Road, and they put together what I thought was a very coherent rescue plan, and the way, with a little bit of investment, it could be saved. But the council, they chose not to accept that. I looked at the numbers on rolls, and they've been dwindling for a long time, a very long time. Not just last 4 or 5 years, a lot longer than that. And I'm not going to sit here and criticise a school or a school governor. School governors do a great job, they're unpaid, it's a very difficult task, I used to be one. But I looked at this decline, I thought, you know, perhaps we could have done something with this some time ago. And it's very difficult because when somebody starts at secondary school, you start, there's, you know, the courses, you can inspire at that age to go on to sixth form. So it was very sad. But in terms of, we've already said today, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about education and funding in schools. The national funding formula, which the government consulted on, and the consultation ended on March the 22nd, we acknowledge, and I think there's an acknowledgement across party, that the way the funding for schools across the country has been done for many years has been unfair. Derbyshire has been underfunded in its schools for a very, very long time. And there was broad consensus that we needed to rehash the way we did that. We did a consultation on that, which ended on the 22nd of March. The government have not responded to the feedback they've had on that, and they've had a lot of feedback, and they've had feedback from me. I raised it, but very quickly, I really do want to make this point, so there's been a lot of talk about school funding. And
Yes, of course.
okay.
If people are making particular points, then I'd invite to respond to them.
Right. Am I allowed to finish the point or not?
Yes, but I'll give somebody else some more time on the next one.
Right.
If you can.
The point I'm making, the consultation is the 22nd of March. The illustrative figures for the High Peak show that 32 schools received more funding under the new NFF. But these are illustrative. The 2 remain the same. There are 50 schools in the High Peak.
Right, I think we're getting too much into the details here. I think you've made your point for the moment. We're going to move on to the next question.